During a family dinner, my uncle casually mentioned something about my childhood that didn't make sense, and when I pressed him for answers, the room went silent and everyone stared at my mom who refused to say a word. I cheated on Sarah because I thought I deserved better. Not physically, not at first. Emotionally, I'd been texting Emma from work for months, sharing things I should have shared with my fiancé, complaining about Sarah's boring, routine, her predictable Saturday mornings, her way of humming while doing dishes that suddenly annoyed me. Emma listened. Emma understood. Emma made me feel like the protagonist of my own again. The family dinner happened 3 weeks after I'd kissed Emma in the parking garage. Mom had invited everyone over to celebrate my engagement to Sarah, ironically enough. Uncle Rick was there with his girlfriend, telling embarrassing stories about me as a kid. Sarah was laughing, holding my hand under the table, completely oblivious that I'd been planning to breathe her after the holidays. Remember when we're 7 and refused to eat anything but peanut butter sandwich for like 6 months? Uncle Rick said. Mom was so worried she took to Dr. Peterson. He said it was normal kid behavior, but man, we're skinny as a rail. I laughed along, but something felt off. Dr. Peterson. I thought our family doctor was Dr. Martinez. Not the comfortable quiet of people chewing food, but the sharp electric quiet that happens when someone says the wrong thing at the wrong time. Uncle Rick's face went pale. Mom's fork clattered against her plate. Dad cleared his throat and suddenly found his mashed potatoes fascinating. Sarah seeing the tensity but not understanding it. I asked, looking around the table. Who's Dr. Peterson? Mom stood abruptly. I need to check on dessert, but we hadn't finished the main course yet, Mom. Sit down. Who's Dr. Peterson? Uncle Rick was staring at Mom with ever seen before. Panic mixed with something else. Guilt, maybe. I thought he knew. Knew what? My voice was getting louder. Sarah's hand tightened on mine. Mom finally turned around. Her face was white as paper. It's nothing, honey. Rick just got his wires crossed. But I could inherited her tells. The way she touched her earring when she was nervous. The way her voice went half an octave when she wasn't telling the truth. The same tells I'd been using to lie to Sarah for months. No, I want to know. Why would we have gone to a Dr. Peterson? Martinez was our family doctor. The silence stretched on forever. Finally, Uncle Rick put down with eyes full of something I couldn't name. Because Dr. Peterson was the specialist Mom took to after what happened when I was 7. Another silence. This one felt like standing on a cliff edge. The accident, Uncle Rick said quietly. When Bob wasn't Dad yet. When real Dad, or I say Stope. Mom's voice cracked like a whip across the dining room. But it was too late. The words budding in the air like smoke I couldn't see. My real dad. Sarah's hand slipped out of mine. I could hear her breathing change, could feel her shifting away from me in her chair. Even she knew this was big. Mom sank back at her chair like all the air had been let out of her. We were going to tell when got married. After the wedding. Tell me what? The dad, the man I called for 25 years, finally looked from his plate. His eyes were red-rimmed. That I adopted when we're 8. That biological father, he Mom. And when he died in that accident Mom brought to me. And we became a family. The room tilted. Actually tilted like I was on a carnival ride spinning too fast. I don't remember any of this. Blocked it out, Mom whispered. Deckard Peterson said it was normal. That kids sometimes forget trauma to protect them. I stood so fast my chair fell backward. You've been lying to me my entire. From what? From the truth. From knowing who I actually am. Sarah stood too, her face a mixture of confusion and concern. Maybe we should go home. Talk about this privately. But I couldn't breathe. Everything I thought I knew about my family, about my was built on a lie. What else? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. What else have been lying about? Mom started crying then. Real tears, not the manipulative ones she used when she wanted Dad to fix something around death and else, I swear. Just this. But I didn't believe her. How could I? If they could lie about something this fundamental for 17 years, what else were they hiding? I grabbed my coat and headed for the door. Sarah called after me, but I couldn't face her. Not when my entire world had just shifted on its axis. I drove to Emma's apartment without thinking. She answered the door in pajamas, took one look at my face, and pulled me inside. What happened? I told her everything. About the dinner, the lies, the father I never knew I had. She listened without attachment, brought me tissues, made me tea. She didn't try to fix anything or tell me it would be okay. She just let me fall apart. When I finally stopped talking, she sat next to me on her couch and put her hand on my knee. I'm sorry, she said. That must be devastating. It was. But sitting there, Emma, feeling understood and cared for in a way I'd never felt with Sarah, something else occurred to me. If my parents could lie about something this big, if the foundation of my entire was built on deception, then maybe I didn't owe anyone my honesty to take what I wanted. Maybe I deserved Emma. I kissed her enough, I didn't stop. I moved in with Emma 2 weeks after the family dinner. Told Sarah I needed space to process what I'd learned about my childhood. She was understanding, of course, supportive. Said she'd wait for me while I figured things out. The guilt ate at me for about 30 seconds before Emma distracted me with dinner reservations and weekend trips, and the kind of spontaneous that made me forget Sarah existed. Our shared apartment sat half empty while Sarah honored my need for space. She texted me every few days, gentle check that I mostly ignored. I told I was protecting her by staying away, but really I was protecting from having to face what I was doing. Emma made it easy to rationalize. She was everything Sarah wasn't. Ambitious, unpredictable, demanding. She challenged me in ways that felt exciting rather than exhausting. When I complained about Sarah's morning routines, Emma would roll her eyes and say things like, deserves someone who matches energy. When I showed her pictures from family events, she'd point out how uncomfortable I looked and ask why I was settling for her. That made me miserable. She was right, I told her. So I'd been settling my whole accepting other people's versions of who I should be. My parents had decided I should be their trauma-free adopted son. Sarah had decided I should be her stable, predictable fiancé. But Emma saw me for who I really was. Emma brought out the version of I actually liked. The lies multiplied like cancer cells. I told Sarah I was staying with my buddy Jake while I worked through my family issues. I told Jake I was staying late at work on a big project. I told my coworkers I was dealing with a family crisis. Everyone was sympathetic, understanding, eager to the benefit of the doubt. Meanwhile, I was playing house with Emma. Cooking dinner together, falling asleep to Netflix, learning her coffee order and the way she liked her eggs scrambled. It felt like real in a way my relationship with Sarah never had. This was who I was, so that I was meant to lie. The family situation deteriorated rapidly. Mom called every day crying, begging me to come home so we could talk. Dad left voicemails that started angry and ended pleading. I ignored most of them, but the ones I did answer always ended in screaming out trust and lies and 25 years of deception. Had no right, I told mom during one particularly brutal phone call. Stole my identity, made me live someone else's. We saved, she back. We're broken, baby. Wouldn't eat, wouldn't sleep, wouldn't let anyone touch. We gave a fresh start. Gave me a lie. But I was past caring about their love. I was angry, and then anger felt powerful. Anger justified everything I was doing. Sarah kept trying to bridge the gap between me and my family. She'd show at Emma's apartment building, but I never answered the buzzer. She'd call my eyes but have my assistant say I was in meetings. She sent care packages to Jake's address, homemade cookies and my favorite books, little notes that said things like, thinking of, and hair when ready. Emma found one of the packages when she intercepted my mail. She opened it right in front of me, reading Sarah's note aloud in a mocking voice. I know this is hard, but we'll get through it together. God, she's pathetic. Does she have any self-respect? Should have told Emma to back off. Instead I laughed. She means well. She's desperate. It's embarrassing. Emma was right. Sarah's attempts to reach me were embarrassing. Cling privileged made the right choice in leaving. The breaking point came 6 weeks after I'd moved in with Emma. Sarah showed at my office, walked past security, and cornered me in the elevator. We need to talk. She looked terrible. Thin, exhausted, like she hadn't been sleeping. Her engagement was still on her finger, but it looked loose. Not here, I said. Then where? Won't answer my calls, won't come home. Jake finally told me haven't been staying with him. My stomach dropped. What did Jake tell? That been lying. That he hasn't seen in weeks, but I could see that in her eyes. So our elevator reached my floor. The doors opened, but neither of us moved. It's complicated. It's not. She stepped closer to me, either working through family stuff or not. Either want to marry me. Either love me, or don't. I couldn't look at her. There's someone else, isn't there? The words hung in the air between us like a physical thing. I could have denied it, should have denied it. But I was tired of lying to everyone except Emma. Not dramatically, not like in movies. Just a quiet collapse like a building folding in on itself. How long? It doesn't matter. How long have been cheating on me? Since before the family dinner. She pressed the button for the ground floor with shaking fingers. I sat under in silence. When the doors opened, she turned to me one last time. I love the man I thought were. But that person doesn't exist, does he? He never existed. She handed me her engagement ring and walked away. I stood in that elevator for 10 minutes after she left, staring at the ring in my palm. It had belonged to my grandmother. The woman I now knew wasn't actually my grandmother. Everything was connected to lies, to false histories, to people pretending to be things they weren't. But Emma was real. Emma was honest. Emma knew exactly who and wanted me anyway. When I got home that night, I told Emma what had happened. She listened sympathetically, made all the right noises about how difficult it must have been. Then she opened a bottle of and said we should celebrate. Celebrate what? Freedom, honesty, the fact that finally chose. We made love that night with an intensity that felt like victory. Like I'd finally won something I'd been fighting for my whole. I had the engagement ring in my sock drawer and didn't think about Sarah again for on a Tuesday. Not dramatically, not after a. She just came home from work and said she'd been thinking, and maybe we'd moved too fast. And she needed some space to figure out what she really wanted. But I left Sarah for it, I said, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. She looked at me with something that might have been pity. I never asked to do that. She was packed and gone within an hour. I sat in her apartment surrounded by the we'd built together, and realized that nothing belonged to me. The furniture was hers, the lease was in her name. Even the coffee maker I bought had somehow become communal property that she was taking with her. I called in sick to work and spent 3 days on her couch, drinking her leftover and trying to understand what had happened. When the landlord showed with eviction papers, I realized Emma hadn't paid rent in 2 months. The space I thought was a sanctuary was just another lie built on borrowed time. I moved back in with Jake temporarily. He was decent enough not to say, I told so. But I could see it in his eyes every time he looked at me. His girlfriend treated me like I had some kind of contagious moral disease, which maybe I did. The isolation hit me like a physical weight. Emma had been my entire social circle for months. I ghosted my other friends when they'd asked too many questions about Sarah. I'd burned bridges with my family. I destroyed my relationship with the one person who'd actually loved me unconditionally. I tried to reach out to Sarah. Called her number, but it was disconnected. Drove by our old apartment, but someone else was living there. Asked mutual friend to have forgotten my name overnight. Finally, Jake's girlfriend told me Sarah had moved back to Portland to be closer to her sister. She'd taken a new job, found a new apartment, started over completely. She asked people not to give her information. Jake's girlfriend said. She said she needed to heal without wondering when might show. The finality of it crushed me. I thought somewhere in the back of my mind that Sarah would be there when I got my act together. That she'd take me back once I figured out how to apologize properly. I never considered that she might actually move on. Work became unbearable. Everyone knew what had happened somehow. Small office, big gossip network. People were polite but distant, like they were afraid of catching whatever had made me implode. Emma had quit without notice, leaving me to handle projects we'd been working on together. Every day felt like archaeological work, digging through the remains of choices I couldn't undo. My family situation somehow got worse. Mom had what she called a breakdown, but what Dad described a complete nervous collapse. She'd been hospitalized for exhaustion and was seeing a therapist twice a week. The guilt of keeping the family secret for so long, combined with my complete rejection of their attempts to repair our relationship, had apparently pushed her over and didn't know existed. She blames herself. Dad told me during one of our awkward coffee meetings. For all of it. For not telling sooner, for telling it all, for the way found out. She thinks she broke Poe. She liked it to me for 25 years. Same thing. No son. But I was still too angry to hear it. Too committed to the narrative that I was the victim in this story. Everyone had wronged me. Everyone lied to me. Everyone had failed me. I was just responding to their failures. The truth had seeped in slowly, like water through a basement wall. Sitting alone in Jake's guest room at 2 a.m., I'd remember things. Sarah making my coffee the exact way I liked it without being asked. Sarah listening to me complain about work for hours without trying to fix everything. Sarah defending me to her being at parties. Sarah planning our entire wedding around things I'd mentioned liking once in passing conversations. Sarah researching anxiety treatments when I went through a rough patch at work. Sarah learning to cook my grandmother's recipe so I'd have something familiar during holidays. Sarah loving me when I was unlovable, which it turned out was Mo started seeing a therapist. Not because I wanted to, but because Jake said I had to if I wanted to keep staying with him. Dr. Chen was patient and professional and completely unimpressed by my victim Hurin's trauma. She said during our third session, both as a child and recently when learned about adoption. Trauma can make us feel powerless, and when we feel powerless, we sometimes make choices that give us a temporary sense of control. So cheating on Sarah was trauma response. Cheating on Sarah was trauma or choice made. The trauma might explain some emotional state, but it doesn't excuse actions. Everyone lied to me, Wes, and that was wrong. But lying to Sarah didn't fix the lies I'd been told. It just created more damage. I loved Emma. Did love the way Emma made feel about. I couldn't answer Shin. Didn't want to answer it. Dr. Chen assigned homework. Write down everything I'd lost because of my choices. Be specific, be honest. The list took me 4 hours to complete. Sarah. Obviously Sarah. The woman who'd planned to spend her with me. Who'd been excited to be my wife, who'd never once made me feel like I wasn't enough. Gone, my family. Maybe not forever, but damaged beyond easy repair. Mom was on medication now. Dad looked tenured every time I saw him. Uncle Rick wouldn't make eye contact with me at all. My friend group. They'd chosen sides and they hadn't chosen mine. My reputation at work. I'd gone from respected project manager to the guy who had a complete moral collapse. People were frightened to worry like I might snap again at any moment. My sense of self, the person I thought I was, the person I've been proud to be, that person was gone. In his place was someone I barely recognized. Someone who'd chosen comfort over commitment, excitement over loyalty, lies over hard conversations. My future. There I'd been building with Sarah, the plans we'd made, the dreams we'd shared. All of it erased because I decided I deserved something sheenier. But the worst loss was harder to quantify. I'd lost the ability to trust my own emotions, my own judgment. If I could convince that cheating on Sarah was justified, what else might I convince to do? If I could twist love into possession and loyalty into boredom, what other lies was I telling? The final session with Dr. Chen was 6 months after Emma had left me. Do you regret it? She asked. Which part? All of it. The affair, the lies, the way handled. Learn it for a long time. I regret Sarah. I regret not talking to my parents instead of just running away. I regret burning down my entire over family drama that we probably could have worked with. Regret their affair itself. Another long pause. I regret that it didn't turn out the way I thought it would. That's not the same thing. She was right. I regretted the consequences, but part of me still believed I deserved those months with Emma. Part of me still believed I'd been justified what I wanted. Think. Dr. Chen said carefully. They're still looking for someone to tell that choices were understandable. That anyone in situation would have done the same thing. Wouldn't they have? I can't answer that. But I can tell that seeking external validation for internal decisions is what got into this mess in the first place. The conversation ended there, but her words followed me home. I tried to write Sarah a letter, away 17 draft. There wasn't any combination of words that could undo what I'd done or explain it in a way that would make sense to someone who'd never chosen to betray the person they were supposed to love most. I tried to find Emma on social media. She'd blocked or repair things with my parents. Made some progress with Dad, but Mom was still too fragile and I was still too angry. Mostly I just tried to live with the weight of understanding that every single person who'd loved me was better without me. Jake's girlfriend moved in. I the hint. Found my own studio apartment across town. Sparse, functional, lonely. Perfect for the person I'd become. The worst part isn't the isolation or the regret or even the guilt. The worst part is the knowledge that I did it all too. No one forced me to cheat, to lie. No one forced me to temporary excitement over lasting love. I made those choices because I thought I deserved better than what I had. And now I'll spend the rest of my knowing that what I had was better than what I deserved.